The challenges have been tough, but I had survived 200 days in hardcore Minecraft. The Ender Dragon and Wither had fallen to my sword and I stood in netherite armour. But if I thought surviving in this dangerous world was hard before, I had no idea what was coming. After all, you know what they say. Life's like an ocean. You can either ride its waves, or you drown in its depths. And I knew exactly which choice I was going with. Here we are in day 201. There are a ton of things I wanted to do in these 100 days and I wasted no time on my first goal. I wanted to find a jungle in order to get bamboo to craft scaffolding. Scaffolding would make my life so much easier for building big projects and be much better than pillaring up using dirt. While I was searching, I found this witch hut. Yo, you should keep your house clean because it's full of grass. I found a couple of ruined portals but unfortunately no jungle. I slept in a villager house and got back to searching on day 202. After a ton of searching, I stumbled upon a jungle and immediately set up another portal in order to have easy access to this place in the future. I then started searching for bamboo. I found a jungle temple and of course the loot was absolutely terrible. The sticky pistons are honestly the most valuable thing here. It's pretty embarrassing, but I didn't actually know you could instantly harvest bamboo with a sword, so I was using my axe instead. Once I gathered enough bamboo, I headed back to my nether portal to return home. Day 203, I arrived back home, farmed my melons and pumpkins before heading into my trading hall to make a ton of emeralds. I was able to reach level 36 and decided to start work getting a perfect silk touch pickaxe. I got on breaking 3 and efficiency 4 straight away, which is a great start. I then started working on getting this villager to sell me a good efficiency book. After breaking and replacing the lectern for the entire night, he finally offered efficiency 4. Of course, I'm not buying it at 13 emeralds. Day 204, I found my sugarcane in order to sell paper to the villager, which would lock in his trades. Listen man, stop screaming, I'm a trained professional. I farmed my crops all day and then returned to the hall to check on the villager. He'd finished curing, so I bought 2 efficiency 4 books from him, one for the pickaxe and one for my axe. It was expensive, but now my axe is definitely deserving of the name Pumpkin Warlord. I began day 205 by throwing bread at the villagers. Don't worry guys, I'm doing this fully out of the goodness of my own heart and not because I need you to make me more workers so I can make more money. When have I ever treated any of you badly? Actually, I think it's better if you don't answer that. Forget about my crimes against villagers because now I'm farming pumpkins. I did the same with the melons and then sold them all off, which made me a ton of emeralds. Day 206, I decided to build a tree outside my old trading hall because the area was feeling kinda empty. I got a decent amount done, but like usual, I ended up running out of materials and had to gather more. Once I finished the tree trunk, I started adding leaves, and of course I ran out of those as well. Day 207, I finished off the leaves, and I think it looks pretty good. I'm not the best at building custom trees, but I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. I also killed the Cyan Golem. I had literally no reason for this, but it was annoying me. He must have cursed me from the afterlife because the gameplay audio for the next couple of days didn't record. I decorated the area around the tree with some flowers, and then headed to my villager breeder because I was after a silk touch book. Unfortunately, it turned to night while I was trying to get this villager in, which meant he no longer wanted a job and instead wanted to sleep. It was painful to get him into his spot, but I got him there in the end. He must have been pretty mad at me because I had to spend the whole night breaking replacing the lectern and he still wouldn't sell me silk touch. As the sun rose on day 208, he finally started selling silk touch, but I wasn't paying 14 emeralds. One zombification later and he had a much more affordable price. I added silk touch to my new pickaxe as well as adding it to this shovel and combining it with another. I know I'm destroying the speech, but hey, the audio is back. Apologies to all the wildlife, but I need the sand in order to craft TNT. I then headed off to the nether and you can probably guess where this is going. We're going to be mining for ancient debris, but with the TNT it should be much faster. So I spent all of day 208 searching for ancient debris. From nearly a stack of TNT I got 11 ancient debris, which is pretty good. I also used my new silk touch pickaxe to grab some nether gold ore which I could smelt into ingots. It was dark by the time I returned, so I just farmed melons and pumpkins. Day 210 began my profits. My ancient debris had smelted, so I crafted into netherite and then converted my pickaxe and shovel. I then started work taking down my beacon because I was going to go mining with it. I wanted to gather up a bunch of stone in order to craft stone bricks, and getting some ores along the way wouldn't hurt. I mined for the entire night and all of day 211 with haste 2 and got more than enough stone as well as a decent amount of ores. On day 212 I pillared up with the ores I mined and used my fortune pickaxe. From 24 diamond ore I got 54 diamonds, which is insane. It was a pretty chill day. I did some farming and set the beacon back up. Day 213 I started work tearing down the old villager hall. It could literally only fit 6 villagers and it honestly looks pretty bad. I mean the whole granite roof with a cobblestone trim just doesn't look that good. I also freed this librarian. After everything I put the villagers through, I think it's the least I can do. It took me all day to demolish the build, but having haste definitely made my life easier. I began construction on what was going to be the new villager breeder. I felt bad for all the villagers living in that hole. At the time I didn't think about it, but this is a really dumb place for a villager breeder because it's way too close to the trading hall, which means all the villagers there will claim the beds, stopping the other villagers from breeding. After a whole night of building, I made decent progress. I continued throughout day 214 and this weird iron golem just stared me in the face. By the time night fell, I had started work on the roof. Day 215 started off with farming and then money. I think I might have a little obsession. I needed more dark oak logs for a new breeder, so I set out to get some. While on my journey, I visited the pink sheep I found in 200 days. Looks like he's doing well. After committing some pretty severe deforestation, I ran away before I got rested, and got back to work building the breeder. I wanted to make a cool looking tower jutting out of the roof. I was still building on day 216, working on the roof of the tower. This is how it looks so far. As I returned home to grab some stuff from my chest, I found this villager barged into my house and made himself comfortable. My initial thought was to chuck this guy in a hole with a bucket of lava, but then I decided he could stay. I named him Captain Crunch because he was a fisherman, and then headed off to the forest to get more wood for the tower. I finished the roof and started building the exterior. Also, that librarian I freed, he's a zombie now. Not exactly off to a great start in his new life of freedom, but I'll cure him. I thought I could give him an early retirement in the tower, but he'll be safe and sound and have a great view. As the sun rose on day 217, I realized something terrible had happened. That zombie librarian had been holding scaffolding. And what lay on the ground before me, next to the iron golem? Rotten flesh and scaffolding. The villager who had faithfully served me and gained freedom was no more. I immediately disposed of the iron golem, but it wouldn't bring back the lost villager. I made him a grave and paid my respects. But I kind of want to build a path here, and this grave is in the way, so... Anyway, after paying my respects to the villager, I continued building the exterior of the tower. Day 218, I added the finishing details to the tower, including some blue stained glass and some flowers. I really like how this place turned out. Of course, I started to do the floor, but not before getting rid of this iron golem. I didn't like how the floor was looking, but eventually decided to go with some polished blackstone and andesite. This cat had gotten in, and of course I had to tame it. I bought her a name tag and named it Luma. After that, I finally built the floor of the villager breeder. Day 219, I got some beds for the villager breeder and then started trying to get the villagers in there. It was a slow process, but by the end of the day, I managed to get 5 of them in there. I realized I hadn't made any money today, and that's unacceptable. I farmed pumpkins and melons and then reaped the profits. Day 220, I decided to use all the spare beds from the old villager breeder as explosives. It's not going to be as fast as TNT mining, but hopefully I can get a decent amount of ancient debris. I was able to get 11 pieces, which I was happy with. Day 221, I realized the new residents had somehow been turned into zombies, and 2 of them were nowhere to be found. I was super confused because I was sure that I had fully lit this place up. I rushed off to get weakness potions and realized Captain Crunch had become Cleric Crunch. Maybe fishing wasn't his thing. After brewing weakness potions, I found that yet another of the villagers had disappeared, having most likely been killed by the iron golem. After curing the survivors, I did exactly what the situation called for. And of course, in his dying moments, this golem decided to make my life even more difficult. As long as 2 villagers were in the breeding, I could always get more. But no, this stupid golem killed another of them. I was so mad that I found the nearest golem and killed that one as well. You know what they say, money soothes the soul. Or something like that. I realized some of my villagers would buy carrots and decided I wanted to start a carrot farm. This patch is just temporary until I have enough carrots to plant a proper field. I also swapped the cobblestone slabs on my bridge for stone brick ones and removed the remnants of my old bin. As the night came to a close, I crafted a bunch of stone brick and andesite walls. Day 222, I was replacing all the spruce fences around my farm with the new walls. That's literally all I did. All day just placing walls. And killing an iron golem, of course. I realized the roof of the villager breeder was really dark and spent the night lighting it out. Day 223, I crafted a bunch of quartz. I wanted to make a pedestal for my beacon because the pyramid of emerald blocks just looked out of place. After getting a shape that I liked, I wasn't a fan of how much the white quartz stood out and decided to try a blackstone instead. This looked 10 times better, and I immediately changed the design to a blackstone trim with a quartz backing as well as some inlaid emerald blocks. When I returned home, Captain Crunch had a new friend and he was sleeping in my bed. Instead of kicking him out of my house, I just let him sleep on the ground floor. Day 224, I continued building the beacon pedestal. By the end of the day, I finished it and rebuilt the beacon. I also added these soul campfires on for extra effect. Day 225 began with none other than melon farming. I felt like the quartz on the pedestal was looking kind of plain, so I added some more emerald blocks. Of course, I then went and did some more villager trading. I wanted to go mining again for ancient debris with TNT, so I headed out to a desert to gather sand. I noticed this lava pool and decided to set up a nether portal. Unfortunately, I didn't have a flint and steel to light it, so I quickly went mining. I ended up having to fight my way out of the cave because a bunch of monsters had spawned. After the battle, I headed back to another and arrived back home on day 226. I used these water trap doors to create small brackets for the campfires because I needed more detail. I need a new librarian because I want to get an unbreaking book, and it doesn't look like I'll be running out of villagers anytime soon. My plan immediately failed because I never actually finished this section of the training hall, so we just walked out. I didn't have any string for the observer, which meant I was going to need to trap a villager in there and then manually place the stairs above his head. This also failed. I killed a spider in order to get the string I needed and then went to sleep. Day 227, hopefully this will be the 3rd and final try. Yeah man, just run away. Exactly what I wanted. He then got himself stuck in his hole and I just stared at his stupid face. Time for the 4th try. Oh my god. I was not about to fail a 4th time, so I just trapped him in there the good old fashioned way. After a long time of resetting his trades, he finally offered unbreaking. I grabbed a weakness potion, flicked the lever, and oh, I forgot to add a sticky piston to this section. Remember guys, if your village is broken, smash a glass bottle on his head. That'll help. Day 228, I was expanding the carrot patch as well as removing my old sugarcane farm. I have a couple of automatic ones, so there's really no need for it. I started planting a new wheat field as a replacement, whereas I was a farmer roaming my crops. This was going to be a problem because farmer villagers harvest crops, so I didn't want this guy freeloading off mine. He knew what was coming. He gave me a little nod before his demise. After covering up the evidence, I continued to plant wheat. I checked on the librarian and he finished curing, so I bought a bunch of unbreaking books. After combining them together to get unbreaking 3, I added it to my shovel as well as a spare elytra. For the rest of the night, I added a stone wall to the new wheat patch. Day 229, I continued to work on the wheat patch, adding more wall and planting more seeds. I spent the night adding more detail to the front of my sugarcane farm. I went through several designs, but by the morning of day 230, I found one that I liked. I built some more of the path and then headed to the nether to finally use that TNT I've been holding onto since day 225. And how much netherite did I get with 37 TNT? 4 pieces. To be honest, after what happened with the farmer, I probably deserved that. It was day 230 231 by the time I returned from the nether, and I started with the classic pumpkin and melon farming. I checked my stats, and at this point I have farmed nearly 8,000 pumpkins. Of course, I then went to the trading hall and made tons of emeralds. You might be wondering why I have fire res potions in my hot bar, and I'll explain. I wanted to get another beacon, which meant I would need wither skulls, but my usual nether fortress is terrible for monster spawns. I was going to search the nether for a better fortress, so I had the fire res just in case I crashed and fell into lava whilst using my elytra. I found a bastion, and while I completely avoided them in 200 days, I had my bow and felt strong enough to take them on. My strategy was pretty simple, just pick off all the pigdens with my bow and then get to the loot. I found the stash of gold and everything was going great, until this happened. I took heavy damage, but I was able to fend off my attackers. I wasn't super close to dying, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't slightly scared when this all happened. My search for a fortress was still unsuccessful. As you can see by my coordinates, I was almost 4,000 blocks out in nether and still hadn't found one. You know what I did find? Another bastion. Do you want to guess what I did next? Killed all the inhabitants and stole all their possessions? Absolutely. I really wanted to find pig step, but unfortunately this bastion didn't have it. After searching for a while longer, I found this fortress, but it was pretty bad for spawns. Then this happened. I had to frantically pillar up as all the zombie pigmen rushed over to attack me. I ended up flying away with my elytra in order to de-aggro them. I stayed in the fortress for a few minutes but found barely any wither skeletons, so I moved on. I ended up finding this fortress in a basalt delta, and can we just take a step back to appreciate how cool this fortress looks with all the grey basalt around it? The first go took a while, but the second dropped only a couple minutes later. In order to get more monster spawns, I extended this platform. It took a while, but the third skull finally dropped. Day 234, I was heading back to another when I found another bastion. These pigments cleared a total of about 10 brain cells because they built their bastion right into this lava pool. I used my usual strategy with the bow and then looted the bastion safely. Day 235, I returned home. My bow is extremely low on durability. I had a good plan to repair it and make it even stronger. First, I bought 2 Unbreaking 2 books, combined them and then added them to this bow. I then got yet another bow and enchanted it until I got a decent power enchantment, which I could combine with another to get power 4. Day 236, I was still working on my master plan for a perfect bow. I needed more XP, so I farmed my crops and then did a ton of villager trading. I then returned to the enchantment table and was able to get power 4, which is perfect. After that, I combined these 2 bows together and then all the preparations were complete for the ultimate bow. All I needed was, 37 levels. I didn't realize at the time, but I also needed the flame enchantment for this bow to be perfect. I was going to visit my Enderman XP farm. Before I went, I grabbed some extra blocks because there were a few things I wanted to add to it. As night fell, I gathered everything I would need, so I headed out to the stronghold. The first thing I'll be adding to my farm is this guardrail. Having a 1 block wide bridge over the void felt pretty unsafe. I'm using leaves because Enderman can't spawn on them. I then added an enchanting area because having to return home to enchant stuff was a pain. After that, I began grinding XP. Day 237, I had enough XP to combine the 2 bows. As I edit this video, it's painful to see that I actually forgot to add the flame enchantment. I killed Enderman for a bit and then returned home. I decided to see what enchantments I could get on this book and ended up getting loyalty 3, which would be pretty useful if I had a trident. I then worked through a night to harvest my pumpkins and melons and then make money. I decided to fill in the gap between these 2 hills because this small bridge looked out of place. By the morning of day 238, I had joined the 2 hills together and I think it looks a lot better than before. I was going to be fighting the wither, so I brewed some swiftness potions. I was going to fight it on the surface using the potions to avoid its attacks. The fight went well, and even though I got stuck in this hole at one point, it was a pretty easy battle. When I returned home, I crafted a new beacon, but it was going to need a pedestal like the one I made for the first. For that, I would need blackstone, so I headed into my ancient debris mine to get some. For all of day 239, I just mined quartz and blackstone. Really entertaining. Day 240, I used some of the gilded blackstone I obtained through bastion raiding to add extra decoration to the pedestal. I wanted to build the stand for the new beacon, but first I had to fill this area in, which took longer than I was expecting. I then began building the pedestal. I continued working throughout the night, although I had a bunch of zombie guests who were asking me for the Wi-Fi password. I had to make a quick trip to the nether on day 241 because I managed to run out of quartz. When I returned and visited my trading hall, I found 2 of the villagers had been infected. If there was an Annoy Mosey award, these 2 would definitely win it. Of course, the best part of the day was building the actual beacon. I went with haste 2 on this one so that pretty much anywhere I go on my base, I'll have haste 2. I flew in on my elytra to see how my base was looking from above. I checked back in on the villagers and they cured, and I decided to level them up to see if they had any other useful trades, which unfortunately they didn't. I spent the rest of the night farming melons and pumpkins. Day 242, I sold off all those melons and pumpkins to make some of those delicious green gems. I realized my shulker box supply was rapidly dwindling and headed off to the end to get more. I found an end city pretty quickly since I had an elytra and ransacked all of its valuables. What's more interesting is that the ship spawned with the front missing for some reason, so there was no dragon head. After decimating the shulker population, I went out and searched for a new end city and found this tiny one. It was fairly small and didn't take me too long to loot. But this third city topped the first end city by a mile. It's by far one of the weirdest end cities I've ever found. To start off with, the shipbuilders clearly got bored halfway through because they only built half the ship. On top of that, if you look closely at this city, none of these buildings are chest rooms, so not only is there no elytra, but also absolutely 0 loot. It was day 243 by the time I returned home, and I immediately crafted a bunch of shulker boxes. I then started organising my stuff into them for convenience, although I'm not entirely sure why I would want a shulker full of random diamond gear. I then slept as the sun was coming up, and it's a pretty accurate reflection of my sleeping schedule in real life. Day 244, I headed over to Village Arena, and again? Seriously? Why do I get the feeling this won't be the last time this happens? I crafted some more golden apples and then AFK'd my creeper farm while waiting for the villagers to cure. After AFKing the whole day, I went down to check on the villagers and yeah, These guys were zombies again. I quickly realized the only way for me to take my mind off it was to make money. Lots of money. No, I'm not going to go see a therapist. I had a bunch of levels, so I just enchanted books in case I got something good. Day 245, I started gathering a ton of dark oak and spruce wood. I'm going to be working on a big project, but I won't tell you what it is yet. Day 246, and I'll tell you. I'm finally going to be building a new house. I'd lived in this spruce plank cottage all the way since day 12, and I think it's about time that I upgraded. I will say though, destroying my original house did make me feel kind of sad. After all, it's been here for hundreds of days. By day 247, I'd almost fully removed all the traces of my old house. The only thing left was the floor and storage room. I won't be changing the storage room till when your house is built, and the floor could be sorted later, so I started work on the house. Well, it's going to be a tower. The palette I would be using was a combination of blackstone bricks, dark oak logs, spruce planks, and emerald blocks. By day 248, I had the foundation of the tower done and started work on the main body. Here's a quick look at my progress by the end of the day. I built until I ran out of dark oak and blackstone bricks, which honestly didn't take very long. I'm just warning you right now, this was not going to be the first time I ran out of resources building the tower. On day 249, I gathered over 5 stacks of dark oak logs and headed to the nether where I mined over 7 stacks of blackstone. Day 250, I was able to complete the main body of the tower, but now my worst nightmare began. I was going to add some spruce plank and emerald rings wrapping around the tower for extra detail, but they were so annoying to build. Day 251, it took me the whole day just to build half of the first ring. This was suffering on another level. After several ankle and leg operations, I was able to complete the ring late into the night of day 252. You want to know the worst part? That was the easier one to build. The second is going to be twice as high up. Day 253 is another look at the progress on the tower. It's getting there. The only other thing that was getting there was my brain getting closer and closer to insanity. Day 254, I finished the second ring and started work on the top floor of the tower. And here was where I used my first totem of undying in this hardcore world. Let's just watch that again in slow motion. You might not have noticed because it was so fast, but this creeper actually blew me up. The creeper exploding actually knocked off all my iron frames, so I had to fix those before returning to work on the top floor. Day 255 is time for another look at the tower's progress. I worked on the top floor all day and took a break by making profits. As dawn broke on day 256, I completed the walls of the top floor and it was time for me to get started on the roof. I built the first frame and realized I built it a block short on either side, which meant I had to rebuild the entire thing. I was going to need a ton of spruce wood, so I went out to gather some. Unfortunately, progress on the roof was halted by the fact I had almost no blackstone left, so I returned to the nether for more. Day 257, I was able to finish the blackstone brick trim of the roof and started filling it in with spruce wood. The tower was really starting to take shape. For the rest of the day and night, I built more of the roof before getting attacked by a baby zombie clad in full gold armour. I sent him flying across the room with a single hit. I wonder how I'm going to explain this one to his parents. On day 258, the resource I've run out of this time was spruce wood. Do you ever feel bad about all the deforestation you caused in Minecraft? Yeah, me neither. I was able to get 3/4 of the roof done and started lighting it up. Day 259, I was lighting up both the interior and exterior of the tower. I did some quick trading because it's a personal addiction of mine and then set to work finishing that last quarter of the roof. Late into the night, I finally finished. Day 260, I was building these huge windows of green stained glass. By the end of the day, I was done, and here's your usual update on the build's progression. Throughout the night, I filled in the windows with stained glass, which marks the completion of the build's exterior. Here's me standing in front of the tower on day 261 after over 6 hours of work. I still needed to build an entirely new storage room, but I didn't have enough blackstone, also wanted to take a break from building. I shoveled a bunch of sand because I was going to try getting at TNT mining for ancient debris. With 33 TNT, I was able to get 9 ancient debris, which is pretty good. I also mined any blackstone that I found. Day 262, I used a new blackstone supplies to build the floor and then got to work clearing out space for my new storage area. I just left the old one floating for now, and I'm really questioning my past self's choice of blocks. I mean, obsidian, crimson wood, crying obsidian, and stone bricks? Really? Day 263, I finished the walls of the storage room and started work on the floor. I was AFK for a little while on the roof of my trading hall, but I think the moon rising next to my tower looks insanely cool. I began placing all the chests I need for my storage. For all of day 264, I was placing chests and adding item frames. This storage requires a lot of item frames, so it's time to pay a visit to the cow pen. Unlike with the villagers, I actually feel bad for these guys. Oh, come on, my profit machines, you know I didn't mean that. I mean faithful citizens. Day 265, I ran out of wood, so I had to go and chop more. I'd also run out of item frames, but thought of a good solution. If I had a master cartographer, I'd be able to buy them, which would save a lot of time. I visited the villager breeder and yeah, I'm done. Please, please, please let this be the last time I have to kill you both. I was completely lost as to how these guys kept getting infected, but I came up with the idea to change the entrance to be more secure. I didn't realize at the time, but there were actually dark spots inside the villager breeder, which meant monsters could spawn. Throughout days 266 to 268, all I did was organize my stuff into the new storage system. It was extremely satisfying to finally remove the old storage room. As I built a staircase into the storage room, disaster struck. My cat Luma got hit by a bolt of lightning and burned to death. I was going to build a monument to her, but would have to wait for later because first I had to finish the staircase. I couldn't get it to look right. I abandoned the idea and instead set up on building a magma and bubble column to enter and exit, which would look really cool. Day 269 began my profits, but I didn't get the usual satisfaction from it because of what had happened to Luma. In order to get my water elevators to work, I needed kelp because it turns flowing water into water source blocks. One trip to the ocean later and I had more than enough kelp. After setting up the elevators, I cleared out these shulkers and also added some shroom lights because the room was pretty dim. On day 270, I set my enchanting table back up and continued to organize my stuff. This was by far the most tedious thing I had to do in these 100 days. I then farmed melons and pumpkins like usual. I don't even have words for what happened in day 271, let's just give it a watch. Have you ever seen someone's soul leave their body? Because you're seeing it right now. Somehow a creeper found its way into the training hall and blown up, freeing half the villagers and destroying the floor. I can't even begin to tell you how badly I wanted to scream. Unfortunately for me, I couldn't scream because I was playing at 4 AM, so my whole family was peacefully sleeping. In just a few seconds, this creeper created hours of annoying work for me. Luckily, most of the villagers went to the breeder, so I was able to trap them in there. I spent the night repairing the damage from the creeper. I need to restore the hall to its former glory as quickly as possible because having less than half the usual farmers meant I was losing over 2 stacks of emeralds per day. Day 272, I started connecting the current villager breeders to the hall's minecart track. I really wish I'd linked them up when I first built the breeder because now it was coming back to bite me. Day 273, I was so insanely frustrated about what had happened, so I AFK'd my creeper farm. I wasn't bothered about the gunpowder, I just wanted the creepers to suffer. Day 274, I started repopulating the hall. It was all going fine up until the 3rd villager because the slot was still open above one of the occupied areas. After separating them, these two casually started doing their thing on the job, in broad daylight. Attention! Making babies while in the training hall is prohibited. After one last villager, the row was once again complete, but the curse of the pumpkin pie trade struck. When I started these 300 days, I had actually planned to build a monument to the villagers as an apology for everything I've done, but this little saga changed my mind. They deserve nothing. Day 275, I found a replacement farmer. I can't tell you how happy I was that he was willing to buy pumpkins. Of course, he underwent a slight transformation that may or may not have been my fault. When I returned to the hall only a few minutes later, he had fully cured, and now my profits were back to normal. I noticed my Silk Touch librarian had returned to the hall, which was a mistake on his part because I wasn't letting him get away. I got him in a minecart easily enough, but then this happened. And this. And this. Also this. But finally, after a long struggle, I got him into position. Day 276, with the training hall back to normal, I began work on getting a librarian who would sell me sharpness. I already had a sharp 5 sword, but my axe, the pumpkin warlord, still didn't have it. Maybe the game felt sorry for me because this guy offered sharpness 5 after only a minute and a half. I locked his trades and bro, what do you mean this is my fault? I did not turn you into a zombie. Back at my storage room, I realized the floor was really plain, so I added some chiseled stone bricks as well as a central pattern with some different ore blocks. I wandered my base at night, checking for any small jobs that need to be fixed while I waited for the villager to cure. I just ended up harvesting my crops. The villager finished curing and I bought a sharpness book. The pumpkin warlord was also missing on breaking 3, so I combined that with the sharpness book and went to create the perfect axe. Except I couldn't. While it's entirely possible to have all these enchantments on an axe at the same time, anvils are pretty weird about adding high level enchantments to already powerful items. This meant I would have to set down the pumpkin warlord and forge a new axe of even greater power. So day 277, I got to work perfecting this diamond axe. After getting efficiency 4 from the enchantment table, I bought a book of it from my librarian and combined all these books together to obtain every axe enchantment possible. All it would take was 26 levels, which my trading hall easily provided. After adding the enchantments, I converted to netherite, giving me the strongest axe possible. I crafted a bunch of TNT and headed to my trading hall to buy a name tag, so I had an iron golem that lived in the lake. He is pretty useless to be fair. I headed into the nether to go mining and got 7 pieces of debris from 44 TNT. As I was leaving on day 278, these piglins tried to mug me. Unfortunately for them, I had a brand new sharpness 5 axe. Ever wondered what happiness feels like? Here it is. I headed back into the nether because I was going to be travelling to a pillage outpost a couple of thousand blocks out and also start a raid. After killing 2 captains to get Bad Omen 2, I flew off to find a nearby village. I came across these ocean ruins that had a lot of drowned in them and decided to spend the night trying to get a trident. Unfortunately, only drowned that are holding tridents can actually drop one, so even though I found a ton of drowned, I only found 2 with tridents and neither of them dropped it. Day 279, I found a peaceful village and immediately brought on death and destruction. I barricaded them all in their homes so that if I wanted, I could start a future raid. The first few waves were really easy since the iron golem just demolished the raiders. Me and this iron golem were going to be best mates. Oh, oops. Nothing personal. I went through wave after wave, just sat on top of this villager house with my bow. However, things started going south once the evokers showed up. The Vex are so annoying to hit because of how small and fast they are, and they do a ton of damage. Then, right on cue, a zombie siege showed up at the village. You wanna know what the worst part is? They picked up some of the totems which I hadn't collected yet, and totems don't just work for the player. Yeah, all those totems I worked so hard to get were now in the slimy green hands of the zombies. After clearing the final wave to get here at the village, I returned home on day 280. The village's trades were even better than usual. I did a bunch of trading to level up the librarians, and it turned out some of them had extra enchanted books that I wanted. As I returned to my tower, I realized something. I'd been gathering ancient debris throughout the past 80 days, yet I still had an unenchanted diamond hoe. It was time to change that. I gave it the appropriate name of the Wheat Eater and converted it to netherite. I then went into the nether and used the Wheat Eater to gather up a bunch of streamlights for my tower. I was about to leave, but noticed this iron golem perched on the edge of this netherrack outcrop. My first thought was to push him off, but I thought of a better idea. Place your bets right now, who's going to win, the golem or the pigman? The golem put up a solid fight, but the pigman had the advantage of numbers. It was day 281 when I returned and added the new streamlights to my storage room. I then flew out to gather more dark oak logs. I checked in on Pink Sheep and he's doing great. I chopped wood all day and then headed back home and did a bunch of farming before making a ton of profit. Day 282, I started building a new bridge. I wanted to build something that fit more with the design of my tower. I made decent progress, and by the end of the day, here's how it was looking. I continued building all through the night. Day 283, I realized I had a slight monster spawning problem when this skeleton jumped down to attack me. I fixed the issue with some shroomlights and then went into the nether to mine more blackstone because I've run out. Midway through the night, I finished the bridge and added in some lanterns for extra detail. I think they're a nice touch. Day 284, I spent the morning repairing my pumpkin and melon farms because over time I'd slowly reduced the amount of stalks by accidentally stepping on them. I then went into the training hall, but I was more interested in the XP than the emeralds. I was going to be enchanting a fishing rod. You might be asking why I would ever need a fishing rod at this stage in the game, and it's because I need a puff fish. For day 300, I was going to raid an ocean monument, and for that I would need water breathing potions which are brewed from pufferfish. I got a decent enchant on this rod and then combined it with another. Hopefully it'll make catching pufferfish a lot easier. I also named my silk touch pickaxe because I somehow forgotten to do that earlier. I spent the night removing this old wheat patch and terraforming the landscape. Day 285 I was preparing to head to the ocean when I noticed a skeleton horse trap just wandering around. Unfortunately only one horse survived the battle, but that's better than none. I don't really have a use for a horse because an elytra is way faster and more convenient, but it was still really cool to have. I realized I needed to build something that I should have done much sooner. A memorial to Luma. I dedicated this bench to her and added some flowers and a campfire. I think she would have liked this place. I then flew out to the ocean to begin my search for a pufferfish. I found the enchanted book, but it was pretty average. Day 286 I decided to change my fishing spot and built myself a little shack. After a while I finally found a pufferfish and went out to take a look at the monument I'd be raiding. I'd never raided one before, so I fought some guardians to learn their attacks and behaviour. When I returned home I started farming. The farming continued into day 287 and then the profits began. I wanted another beacon, so I returned to the nether. That old fortress in the basalt delta was decent, but I knew I could find a better one. I found this fortress pretty quickly and decided to grind for the skulls there. What you're about to see is some of the worst luck I've ever experienced in Minecraft. I turned my render distance down in order to get more spawns, but even after killing tons of skeletons I didn't have a single skull. That's fine, I'll just find a new fortress. Here's a new fortress. It's terrible. Finally, this one looked promising. Let's take a quick look at my inventory here. Nearly 2 stacks of bones showing that I've been killing a ton of wither skeletons. I killed so many wither skeletons but didn't get a single skull. It was day 289 when the first skull dropped. The second skull dropped not long after, but the third took quite a while. The journey back took me to day 290 where I took a few minutes to make a second netherite hoe. This was because my original netherite hoe had the fortune enchantment which I didn't need. After some veggie trading I started building the pyramid for my third beacon. Of course, to actually get the third beacon I need to fight the wither, which is what I set out to do on day 291. I was feeling confident about this fight and it went insanely well. I used my swiftness potion to evade all its attacks and the only time I even got hit was right at the end as I dealt the finishing blow. For the beacon's effects I chose strength and regen. My next goal was to make the perfect netherite helmet and boots because mine weren't quite perfect. My helmet was missing thorns 3 and my boots were missing thorns 3 as well as soul speed 3, but I couldn't actually add the enchantments onto them because the anvil would claim it was too expensive. This meant I would have to re-enchant a helmet and boots from scratch in order to get a perfect set. I crafted some netherite ingots before heading to my trading hall and purchasing a ton of enchanted books. I also bought a name tag because I wanted to name my skeleton horse. This is a pretty cool look at my base. I had to return to the nether because the only way to get soul speed is for enchanted books from pigdens or enchanted books in bastion chests. I already had a soul speed 2 book, so I'd only need to get one more from a pigden. I got these 3 happily trading in a hole and it was only a matter of time and gold. Day 292 and a stack and a half of gold later I finally got what I was looking for. I freed the pigdens from the hole, but my newfound friends turned into my newfound enemies. This is what you deserve when you think giving me gravel in return for gold bars is an acceptable thing to do. I headed home and added the soul speed book to the shulker where I'm keeping all the enchanted books that I'll need. With 3 stacks of lapis in my inventory for enchanting, I headed to the stronghold and then to my Enderman farm. I hadn't been able to remove these dirt blocks when I built this farm in 200 days because I fell down the central shaft as I was doing it, but it was now time to get rid of them. It wasn't an easy task because the Enderman turned on me as soon as I got near, but I was able to sort everything out. And now the grind from day 292 to 293 began. I needed to get feather falling 4 from the enchantment table because I didn't have it on a book. After getting 2 feather falling 3 enchants, I added protection to the boots and combined them together. Now all I was missing was a depth strider book and I'll be able to create the strongest boots in the game. Unfortunately, I made my life way more difficult by accidentally throwing away a stack of lapis. I went through all the lapis I had left, but a depth strider book was nowhere to be found. I returned home and searched my chest only to discover I had a measly 27 lapis left. So day 284, I rushed into my mine in order to search for lapis. I was going to be raiding the ocean monument on day 300 and I really wanted to perfect my armour in time for the final day. I found quite a few diamond ores in my search, but all I wanted was lapis. Day 295 is the results of my mining trip. I was able to turn 20 lapis ore into 5 stacks of lapis on my fortune pickaxe. I returned to my Enderman farm with my newfound supplies and once again searched for depth strider. I finally got it and combined all my books together. All it would take for these boots was 32 levels. After wiping out another generation of Endermen, I created the strongest boots possible. I wasn't done there though. I started to make the perfect helmet. The anvil at the Enderman farm broke, so I just grinded until I hit level 40 and then returned home on day 296. Turns out half that grinding was unnecessary because it was only going to cost me 21 levels to add this book to the helmet and name it. The only thing left to do was convert my new armor pieces to netherite. I decided to use my spare levels to name my leggings and chestplate. It must be the 100th time that I've said this, but I farmed my pumpkins and melons. Day 297 I started by brewing some of the potions I would need to raid the monument, such as swiftness and night vision. After that I hung up my old armor along with some random diamond pieces on this armor stand and made a second stand to match. I had a few days before I would be raiding the monument, so I set out on the most important quest I would ever undertake in my hardcore world. That's right, I'll be taking the pink sheet home with me. However, walking with this lead was really slow, so I decided to fly back on my elytra. It would be so much faster and I'd get him home so quickly and do you have health insurance? Okay, I did bring him home, but maybe not quite in the way I first imagined. I went to the nether because I wanted to create a cool looking stable for my skeleton horse and it involved bone blocks. While I was searching for a soul sand valley, I ended up coming across this bastion and of course got completely distracted. I was getting some pretty cool loot, but it was nothing compared to what I found next. None other than the best music disc, Pigstep. I found a netherite ingot in the central chest and made sure to grab all the gold blocks. I found the soul sand valley I was looking for and let me just say soul speed 3 makes you pretty fast. I mined a bunch of bone blocks and returned home on day 298. Day 299 I started building my skeleton horse's stable, but my mind was completely blank on how I wanted it to look. I decided instead I would build a tree. I worked on it the entire day and night and these phantoms just would not leave me alone. I had to abandon building the tree because it was day 300, it was time to raid the ocean monument. When I say I was going in stacked, I fully mean it. I drank my water breathing and night vision, heads into the temple. Ocean monuments are essentially a giant maze with 3 elder guardians spread throughout. They inflict you with mining fatigue 3 when you get within their 50 block range, which means that you need to kill all of them in order to break blocks in the monument. For a couple of minutes I couldn't find any of the elder guardians, but I stumbled upon the right path. These things are really annoying to deal with because when they had their spikes up they had the thorns effect, meaning if you're not careful you're going to take a ton of damage. I also took a lot of damage from the second one, but the third one a lot more smoothly. With all the guardians dealt with, I was free to mine blocks, so I returned to the core of the monument to loot the 8 gold blocks inside. Some ocean monuments spawn with sponge rooms, but I couldn't find any in this one. After getting the gold, there was one last thing to do, and that was return to my base. I flew home having triumphed over the watery depths of the monument. I had survived to 300 days in hardcore Minecraft. That's going to be it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. This video took weeks to make, so if you can help me out by dropping a like and maybe even subscribing, it would mean a ton. Let me know down in the comments below if you want to see 400 days. If you guys want to see it, I'll happily make it. See you all in the next video. Peace.